Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. Today, very excited as one of my most anticipated games has landed on the table for me. This is Nemesis Lockdown, coming from Awakened Realms, and really excited because I was able to cover this one as part of the crowdfunding campaign in a digital capacity, and now I actually have the physical game here in front of me. Now, not just this box we'll be diving into, but also a number of other components that also arrived as part of the major pledge for the game. It's also worth mentioning, for those of you that are not familiar with Nemesis, there was a Nemesis core box and a whole bunch of stuff to go along with that in a prior campaign. This is known as its own standalone expansion, so it will expand upon the game that is already in existence, but also stands on its own as its own unique experience. Now, inside of this one, it's going to allow you to play semi or full co-op, which is awesome because it allows for solo play, of course. And inside this video, I'm hoping to give you an idea as to everything you can expect to find inside this box in detail, removing any major spoilers. And then in terms of the other boxes that came along with it, I'll give you a peek at each of those at a high level. Nemesis Lockdown is a sequel to the acclaimed Nemesis board game. This space survival horror experience for 1 to 5 players confronts you with a new adventure that expands upon the established immersive rules. It also offers a new way of getting into the world of Nemesis. They say the crash messed up my head. They say I'm hallucinating due to everything I experienced aboard Nemesis, but whenever I put my ear to the naked red rock, I can hear something. There are echoes deep in this planet, full of hunger and rage. Soon we will awaken them, the vengeful ghosts from the old days of Mars. I need to escape before it happens. When faced with the ultimate horror, will you trust your companions? Up in the top right hand corner, as I mentioned earlier, this is a standalone game. You don't need the original Nemesis to play this one. And on the left hand side here, it also mentions the time, 60 to 180 minutes. You'll be on the lower end of the spectrum if you're playing in a solo capacity. Cracking open the box, the first thing you run into is, of course, the rulebook. We're going to take a look through a number of pages of this book, and we're also going to go through some other reference cards underneath. When you open up the rulebook, you're going to find the whole table of contents laid out on the left-hand side, a game overview, and a game introduction to Nemesis Lockdown. You can expect to find a full breakdown of all the game components and elements inside of the box. We're going to be going through a large majority of these. Next up is the game setup, where the majority of the setup instructions are placed here between these 2 pages from steps 1 through 14. The rest, in terms of the crew setup, is specified here, steps 15 through 21. And after this, it's going to go through a majority of the rulebook content in terms of the rules of play, the player goals, how the end game works, your objectives, all of that detailed out. If you're familiar with the original Nemesis and how the rulebook was laid out, this follows a similar form and format. Now, what I'd like to focus on here is at the tail end of the rulebook on page 30, you'll see in the top left-hand corner game modes. We have a solo and cooperative mode, playing with characters from the original Nemesis, an alternative side of the board. Let's go ahead and focus in on the section about solo. I'll allow you to read it if you want to pause the screen. It mentions in the top left-hand section, right up where it says solo mode, while Nemesis shines as a semi-cooperative game, you can also try to survive alone. This mode has its own special objectives deck, which is a solo co-op based objectives deck, very similar to Nemesis. At the start of the game, draw 2 cards from this deck instead of the regular objective cards. After placing the active contingency, draw 2 tokens from the neutral pool instead of 1. To win, you must fulfill your objectives and, of course, survive. We now get to the end of the rulebook, and it's worth mentioning you'll see tie-ins to the original Nemesis in terms of game components and things you can use from that prior experience inside of Lockdown. A good example right here on the back page on the far right, it says using the intruders in the games of Nemesis Lockdown, allowing you to take what was inside the core box for Nemesis and use it inside of Lockdown. Really cool, and I love seeing these tie-ins for individuals that picked up both. Very much like the original Nemesis, there are large reference cards inside the box to break down the specifics for each of the rooms that you're going to find when traversing through the facility here. You've got things like cooling systems and deacon rooms. You have emergency rooms, laboratories, elevator rooms, alert rooms. All the specifics that you need to know in terms of information are played out on these 2 reference cards, and they're also double-sided. Flipping the reference cards over, you'll see rooms on the left-hand side and a full rules summary on the right. What's awesome about the rules summary is once you've consumed the rulebook, you can use the rules summary to get a high-level approach on everything else as you go through and good reminders on the way through. It's not just going to cover the round order, it also has critical moments laid out, how to do exploration, actions, items and objects, combat, intruder attacks, and of course player goals. Next items you'll find inside the box are a sealed pack of punchboards. This one wasn't sealed, it was just on top. It's the laboratory. And this board is double-sided. Now let's go through the punchboards one at a time. I'll flip them over so you can see the back of them as well. But the artwork, if you're familiar with the original Nemesis, is fantastic. And there is no difference here in the quality on this one as well. Everything looks super sharp and really nice. Now, some of this stuff might just pop out as I go through this. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. It is cut really well and ready to play, that's for sure. We got survivors here, the janitor in terms of different characters that you can control, the character boards showing on the back. We now get into some of the different room tiles and tokens, most of which we're going to be familiar with in terms of the symbols and iconography from the original one, but there's differences here as well, of course, because the gameplay is different than what you might expect in comparison to Nemesis. For those of you that have watched my gameplay on Lockdown when the campaign was running, you'll definitely know that this Lockdown game is very different in how it plays versus the original Nemesis game. Here is a look at the game board inside of the box. This is double-sided. I'm going to show you both sides, and then I'm also going to show you the actual playmat laid out as well. Here's a look at the opposite side of the game board. You can see completely different. Here's a look at the Nemesis Lockdown double-sided playmat, and I'm a big-time sucker for playmats in general. They hold up much better over time, and you don't have to worry about fraying and edges falling apart and any kind of damage to the actual cardboard of the board itself, which we've all as board gamers experienced over time with games we enjoy enough that they get that usage. Playmats are really nice to avoid all that kind of fun, plus they can handle a few basic drink spills without the whole world ending. This is really nice. I like the colors on it. They are rich, and there of course is differences between the shimmer and sheen off of a cardboard game board versus a playmat, so there might be preferences there, but overall I'm really happy with this. Here's a look at the other side of the playmat. You'll notice it is stitched all the way around the outside. You'll also notice that some of the edges are lifting, but that's again just because it has been inside some really tight seal as it was shipped. This will all lay flat over time. You can easily lay something heavy on a playmat that's made of neoprene and it will lay flat going forward, but the initial pull out of the bag here shows that the sides are kind of coming up. Don't worry about that if you're diving after the playmat. Those things always work themselves out over time. The only thing you really don't want to see with a neoprene playmat is giant creases or almost kind of like ribbons or ripples through the middle of the playmat from being bent or folded. This is not the case. It was rolled, so it's just going to be a matter of time before everything lays flat. Another tip for those wondering how you can flatten out your playmats even easier is to literally just roll it up the opposite way it was rolled when it came to you. Really, just doing that alone and putting it into storage while you're not using it is more than enough to get it to even out and lay flat. I've done this with many playmats in the past, and it's worked every single time. Now it's nice to see inside this core box you also have an insert. Of course, once you punch everything out, you're going to have places to put everything like character boards, cards, and all that good stuff. So this first tray is mainly empty, but that's to make use of the storage system that's built within here. You have a bag with Nemesis on the front. You also have a reader, which we are very familiar with from the original Nemesis. And then you have a bunch of baggies for storage. I'm going to go ahead and move the next tray out of here. You'll see a whole bunch of components down below. We'll take a look at them up close. Taking all the components out, I've placed them all back in the tray. I'll likely be reorganizing where they all sit, but you can see there's ample room for storage here. We now get down to the bottom of the box where, of course, we're going to run into miniatures, the card stands, and all kinds of decks of cards to go through. It looks like these are all divided up into two separate trays, one on top and one below. Inside the box, you're going to find card stands. If you're familiar with the original Nemesis, these types of stands were included in that one as well. You can use these stands whether you play multiplayer or solo. These will help you to save real estate on the table, keeping the cards face up and down instead of laying horizontal or flat on the table. At this point, I'm going to go through every single unique miniature inside this box. Some are duplicates, so you won't see the same one twice. I want to show you what each of these look like. It's also worth mentioning these are all with sun drops, so they come pre-shaded, pre-painted. They're not fully painted, but this shading really does help bring the details out. Well, I gotta say, those miniatures look incredible. They look even better with that sun drop on them to bring that shading up and make the details pop. Now we're gonna take a look at the final components inside the box, which is the packs of cards along the bottom here, one at a time. At this point, we're going to change gears and take a look at all the cards that come inside Nemesis Lockdown, starting with the small cards, and then we'll move to the standard cards. That's going to do it for the unboxing for the core box of Nemesis Lockdown. I'm also going to show you right now a handful of boxes that came along with the pledge at a high level. Won't go through every single component in as much detail up close as I did with the rest of this, but I want to give you an idea as to what you can expect to find inside these boxes. The first box I want to show you is the stretch goal box. Let's open it up, take a look at a high level across all the components. Here's a look at the back of the box, letting you know inside there is 22 high quality miniatures, 100 plus cards, and 40 other components, plastic insert included as well. It also talks in the top left hand corner in terms of having other expansions in order to make use of the different aspects of this stretch goal box. So if you have a lot of what came in the original Nemesis and you have what goes on in Lockdown, you're really going to have a lot of content to mix and match and use. This stretch goal box is chock full of goodies. We have the stretch goal manual here. We also have on the far right hand side Untold Stories number 3. You'll know from the original Nemesis 1 and 2 were a way in which you can enjoy a narrative thematic experience through Nemesis. Again, this game nails that 1000%. It's one of my favorite games for the thematic category, as it really does pull you into the experience and looks the part as well as plays the part. And more of this in terms of those Untold Stories. In my books, it's always a positive thing for solo gamers. Up there in the left-hand corner, the top left-hand corner here, we have a box full of extra stuff. We have doors going on, additional cards, there's some more tokens, there's some fancy looking bacteria or some type of thing that I am unaware of off the top of my head. And then underneath, we have all the stretch goals with the sun drop on top of them. And I can tell you right now, they look really awesome in green. Taking off the clear cover for the stretch goals box, you see things a little bit clearer now for all the different components that come inside the box. I won't be picking up each and every one of these going through them. The cards in the bottom right hand corner basically go from the top of the box all the way down to the bottom in terms of mini and standard size cards. There's over 100 of those packaged into 4 different bricks of varying sizes. We have spores, we have doors, we have rovers, there's other tokens for the different alien species here, and some different markers essentially to use as well. This is a really colorful and really cool looking stretch goals box that I can't wait to dig into further. This next box is an updated crew box for Nemesis. As you can see from the back of the box, this is purely a cosmetic add-on to give you the 6 figures from the original Nemesis core game to a higher standard of quality. Again, no gameplay added in here on this box, so you can completely skip it if you already have Nemesis and don't need this. Inside the original Nemesis campaign, there was a Spacecats box. There's also a Spacecats promo box here for this Nemesis Lockdown one. We'll go ahead and take a look at the back of this box, but there isn't any major gameplay aspects to this one either. It's just a nice to have cosmetic add-on that came as a promotional item as part of the campaign. Here's a look inside the box, as the back of the box didn't have any description on it. There is 2 miniatures inside of it, and there are 2 cards here. Again, nothing here around gameplay, just cosmetic add-ons for promotional purposes. Here is another cosmetic add-on. Again, does not have any gameplay tie-ins beyond being able to flip out the queen version of the alien species this ties to with this king version. And that was very similar to what they did with the original Nemesis, where the queen was part of the core box. And if you wanted, you could pick up a separate king box just like this in order to swap out a miniature that represented the king versus the queen. Just giving you options in terms of how it looks, but nothing related to gameplay changes. What's really cool about this box, there's 2 miniatures inside, and they're both, in this case for me, sun dropped to match each of the different species, and whether it is the replacement for the queen inside the core box or it's the replacement for the queen inside of the stretch goal box. I have the king versions for both. A couple other things that came along with the pledge here is a dice tray. This dice tray right here is a really cool looking one. You're able to snap the corners together to be able to keep your rolls from flying off the table if you don't have a raised or recessed area, I should say, to play your game. But it is worth mentioning you can lay this flat too if you want. I'll just tip it up so you can see the artwork goes all the way up all the sides. It looks really, really good. Artbook on the side for those interested in an artbook. I'm not going to go through all the pictures. Basically, the majority of what's in the artbook is going to be in the game, but here in the artbook, you'll have larger size pictures of those, and then there's also usually some additional information around the game as well, which is nice to thumb through at times. And then you also have this little pack here I picked up, and this one is a 2019 Dice Tower promotional pack, I believe, and I think I actually already own this for the original Nemesis base game. I think I might have picked it up either by mistake or I grabbed this as an extra thinking I didn't already have it, but I do remember now looking at it that I definitely have this one already, so I might just end up giving this away to somebody else who's looking for it. But beyond that, that is pretty much everything that has come with Nemesis Lockdown. It's a lot of stuff, and I'm really looking forward to diving in even further. And that, my friends, is going to wrap up this unboxing for Nemesis Lockdown from Awakened Realms. Really hope this view of Nemesis Lockdown helps you make an informed decision if you're trying to look into this one, whether you're trying to find it secondhand or you know it's incoming, or maybe you've already got it and you're already playing it. And if that's the case, let me know in the comments below what you think of it so far. I can't wait to personally dive into this experience myself. This landed on my most anticipated list, so it is high up the charts for me to dig into further. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.